Last Sabbath. I'm going to ask you to take a moment and just notice your breath. See what it feels like to pause. Remember what it is that grounds you. Imagine this Sabbath as a time to uplift you. (126) of our Siddur. For those who are following us virtually, please reach for the PDF of Mishkan Tefillah, the prayer book, underneath the live stream link on our website. You know the routine. Open a split screen or get a second device. But be certain to follow along with us today. Before we continue in prayer, I'm going to ask you to take a moment and just notice where our exits are. There is an exit up on the bima behind the door, behind Alexandra here, if we ever needed it. There are 2 exits in the back of the social hall, one that goes out, one that goes into the kitchen, and of course the entrances and the exits to the lobby. 126 together. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. The source needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love HaShekhinah is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love El Shaddai is to love the world El Shaddai created, and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us, and to bring that vision to life. For generations, our people have entered into the Sabbath on the wings of song. 129. Must have been at least 100 years. I must have cried an ocean of tears. We wandered through the cold beloved, I am yours, and you are mine. Dodili, vanilo, aroe, Shoshani. I see you and I know this is not how I thought my life would ever go. But now I see you meant for me, and I was meant for you. Yes, I was meant for you. Oh, dear, vanilo, aroe, Shoshani. One 129, the second paragraph, leaping over the mountains, lifting toward the Sabbath.
With the setting of the evening sun, united with Jews of every place and time, we pray that the light of the source will shine forth, and that the fire we light will be for us a warming flame, and that its brightness will help show us the way. It is our custom as we light the Shabbat candles to hold in our hearts the essential workers as they navigate the dangers of the world. Each day we ask the source of light and of life to protect them. 120.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. 143, Rabbi Larry Kushner teaches, and so we understand that ordinary people are messengers of the Most High. They go about their tasks in holy anonymity, even unknown to themselves. Yet if they had not been there, if they had not said what they said or did what they did, it would not be the way it is now. We would not be the way that we are now. Never forget that you too yourself may be a messenger, perhaps even one whose errand extends over several lifetimes. On the facing page 142. Shalom Aleichem Malachi Hasharit Malachi Malachi Elyon Mimelech Malachi Hamlachim HaKadosh HaKadosh Baruch Hu Boachem L'Shalom Malachi HaShalom Malachi Malachi Elyon Mimelech Malachi Hamlachim HaKadosh HaKadosh Baruch Hu Baruch Hu Shalom Malachi HaShalom Malachi Malachi Elyon Mimelech Malachi Hamlachim HaKadosh HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tzitchem L'Shalom Malachi HaShalom Malachi Malachi Elyon Mimelech Malachi Hamlachim HaKadosh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. 138 and 139, paragraphs 1, 2, 5, and 9, the rabbi asks the following riddle: how do we know when Omicron has ended? And the answer is when we start dancing around the entire sanctuary, and not just in our places and in our hearts. Let your hearts dance, even if we are in place. Dodi, Lekrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nekabela, Lecha Dodi, Lekrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nekabela, Shamor v'Zachor, B'dibor, Adonai Echad, U'Shmo Echad, L'Shem U'Tiferet, V'Litila. לקראת שבת, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת שבת, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. 139. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך ומאורי, אורי אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני אלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובתורה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בני שבת נקבלה. The Chetzi Kaddish comes to literally lull us into the rhythm of prayer. It comes to roll off our lips and from our hearts as it has in generations to past. It comes to separate sections of the service, allowing us this sacred pause as we prepare ourselves for formal prayer. 144.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברך ירותי, וימלך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה, ובזמן קריב, ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבא מבורך, לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך. יתברך וישתבח, ויתבר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר, ויתהלל ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה ברכו לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן.
We prepare now to answer the call to prayer and to bless the one who blesses. We ask that you rise if you are able. 146.
It is no wonder that as soon as we've entered into formal prayer, we bring our attention to the natural world. It is our teacher, light and darkness, joy and loss. We move through the rhythms of life in balance with the natural world.
Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro mahariv aravim mahariv aravim bechokma poteach she'arim ובתבונה משנה עצים ומחליף את הזמנים ומחדד את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו די 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 חושך וחושך מפני אור ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו יאי די 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 יאי די די die, 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 ישמור עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני הממיב ערבים. די 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 מעריב ערבים.
152. I'm going to ask you to notice that before and after the Shema are words of love. Before we affirm our faith, take a moment to be one with Ahavat Olam, infinite love. Close your eyes for a moment and notice a place of love that feels to you infinite. A place that holds you where you feel safe, where you feel anchored, where you feel seen. Ahavat Olam, with that love. We stand together as you are able, affirming our faith.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. 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 ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. אדוני אלוהיכם אמן.
159. Sing the song of people joined in understanding and respect. The song of El Shaddai's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravaged by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace, the facing page, the words of Miriam, of Moses, of B'nai Yisrael become our words.
Lai, 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 Mocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele. Malchutecha uvanecha, bokea lifnei Hashem Miriam,
.160 as the night comes down upon us, as darkness descends, we do not know what our lives and the lives of our loved ones will be. We ask for the guiding presence of the One, both to protect us, shield us, and to guide our lives in day and night. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom Ve'amiteinu Shomreinu L'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom Ve'amiteinu Shomreinu L'chaim. Ushmor tziteinu uvoeinu ulayim ushalom ve'ata ve'ad Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu 164 through 180, the heart of prayer, standing together as you are able. We no longer speak our prayer, but ask that we become our prayer in our deeds, in our minds, and in our hearts.
Open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. La 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 la
Tefillah belachash, a prayer in a whisper. Whisper loud enough that you hear your own prayer, and when you've completed what you bring this evening, work your way back to your seats. Adonai,
Adonai tzuri v'goali. Adonai tzuri v'goali. Ose shalom b'romav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'avot Yisrael ve'emeru amen. Ose shalom b'romav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'emeru amen. Ose shalom b'romav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'emeru amen. Ose shalom b'romav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'emeru amen. Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
It is so nice to be here together with you. A confession. When I began studying religion as an undergraduate, I was not drawn by deeply held religious beliefs. It was not a matter of conviction. I was not called. And I was not yet committed to a life of Jewish service. It was 1998, nearly 2 decades before the emergence of any affirmative identity discourse, and I was a young, queer kid who felt angry and excluded. I had been mostly spared the abuse that so many others suffer, but had suffered enough to come to religion with questions. What did it mean to be made in the image of God? Were male and female the only options? What did it mean to be an abomination? How could God allow for desire but forbid pleasure? Where was it written? I could say that I was looking for answers, but what I was really looking for was a fight. I was looking for a fight and wanted to protect myself, chapter and verse, from what felt like a threat to my very existence. And so I enrolled in my first religious studies class and promptly earned a failing grade. As it turns out, entering scripture with hostile presuppositions violates the scholarly imperative. It also situated me squarely in the camp of those who would otherwise manipulate scripture in support of their agenda. Fortunately, the professor took me aside and taught me how to read. Recognizing a fire in me, she also taught me to tend the flame and to use it as a light to read by. Religion can be a tool of oppression, she said, interrogating my assumptions. It can also be tremendously liberating. It was a revelation. As a graduate student, I conducted my thesis research on the cross-cultural utility of the United Nations Genocide Convention. My argument, that religion was an instrument of violence and of oppression. As you can see, I was not convinced. And while my interviews with genocide survivors living in northern India introduced some complexity into my narrow frame, the real challenge came later. As I traveled south from the Tibetan refuge in Dharamsala to Benares, the city of light, the city of Shiva, the holiest of Hindu cities, the intersection of this world and the next, and we're down a long stretch of river. Devotees greet the sun and the moon, marking the transition from day to night to day, worshiping the river goddess Ganga Devi, and we're downriver past the panwalas and the chai stalls, past the relentless touts offering massage and boat rides, shaving, marijuana, ear cleaning, silk, hashish, and we're downriver past the goats and the dogs and the bulls and the children and the babas, where I came to acquire a bootleg copy of Krishna Das's Kirtan. A revelation? Not quite, but I was on the threshold. Revelation would come later on a meandering side trip to Bodh Gaya, where under the Bodhi tree, where the Buddha is said to have achieved enlightenment, and where I, the unenlightened, and with unchecked privilege, spread myself out on a patch of grass and listened absently to Das's Hindu devotionals, and where soon after I was approached by a boy who motioned to me a silent request to listen, to try on my headset. Confused but obliging, the boy listened with recognition and passed them on. And so it went through a small crowd of strangers, all eager to hear, until an old man in monk's robes took his turn. And upon hearing Das's rhythmic praise, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, the man fell immediately to his knees and folded his hands in prayer. Music that I had used to tune out the noise, to pass the time, was for him a call to worship. It was a revelation. Of course, the path from the Bodhi tree to rabbinical school was not a linear one. I struggled to strike a comfortable balance between the principles and practices of Judaism and other deeply held values and interests. I struggled to find a place in community where I was not required to leave parts of myself at the door. It was 2005, and the Judaism of my South Brooklyn neighborhood did not yet have space for me. Years later, during my first visit to Israel, I had the great good fortune of attending a Simchas Torah celebration in the Old City and of being seated across the table from the brilliant Talmudic scholar Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, Zikrono Livracha. And while the men and boys danced with the carefully wrapped Torah scrolls, Keneged Libam, while they danced with Torah scrolls pressed tightly to their hearts, Steinsaltz asked me about my Torah. Steinsaltz asked me about my Torah, but before I could answer, he stood up and smacked me full in the face. Let it be like that, he said. It was a revelation. We read in this week's Torah portion in Parsha Yitro of the revelation at Sinai and of the otherwise unprecedented meeting of the metaphysical and material worlds. According to rabbinic tradition, the revelation at Sinai was the revelation of Torah, and the belief that the Torah, including the Torah Shabbat Peh, the oral Torah, was received by Moses in its entirety at Sinai, and that it was passed down across and throughout the generations until it was later committed to writing, is a central feature of rabbinic Judaism. Of course, from a more modern perspective, the idea that the Torah was divinely revealed, that it is mi hashemayim, from the heavens, is inconsistent with what reason teaches and with what we know from history and sociology and source criticism about textual composition and co-authorship. Still, this question about the nature of revelation and the source of Torah is a matter of considerable theological debate. There's also debate about the people newly liberated, the newly liberated Israelite masses who endured generations of brutal slavery in Egypt and an additional 40 years of wandering in the deserts, and about what they received at Sinai. According to the Bavli, to the Babylonian Talmud, the people heard only the first two commandments. I, the Lord, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods besides me. But according to Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Raimanov, an early Hasidic master, the people only heard the first letter of the first word of the first commandment. Anochi, Anochi Adonai Elohech. This is the first commandment. According to Reb Mendel, the people heard only the Aleph of Anochi, Aleph, the silent variable in the mystical constellation of letters that comprise the Torah and through which the world was created and wisdom is revealed. For Reb Mendel, the revelation at Sinai was a silent, undifferentiated Torah emerging from an eternally undifferentiated source, a Torah that stood witness to the revelation of God's presence, and that was and is given partial, imperfect expression through human speech and human action. We read in Exodus chapter 19:9, and the Lord said to Moses, I will come to you in a thick cloud in order that the people may hear when I speak with you, and so you trust ever after. We read also in Exodus chapter 20, verse 1, God spoke all of these words, saying, and what follows? The 10 Commandments. I will come to you in a thick cloud in order that the people may hear when I speak with you, and so trust you ever after. God speaks to Moses in order that the people will listen and that they will trust him. And then God speaks these words saying, who said that God said? Not God, not in the third person. If we look to chapter 19, verse 25, we read, we learn that Moses went down to the people and spoke to them. God doesn't speak to the people. God speaks to Moses, and Moses speaks to the people. But if God doesn't speak to the people, what is revealed? What is the revelation? If God doesn't speak, what is it that we received at Sinai? What is revealed at Sinai and what the people received, what we received, is God's presence in the world. The revelation at Sinai, an event that has come to define modern Judaism, does not contain a particular message. The revelation at Sinai is about God, the God idea, the Ein Sof HaShekinah, the infinite name, which from Sinai to the prophets, through to the Mishnah, to Maimonides, the mystics, the halachas, and beyond remains ineffable, manifesting in the world powerfully enough for people to experience it and to know it to be true. The revelation at Sinai was a revolution. According to Rabbi Sharon Bruce, God's presence in the world rewrites the theological and political assumptions of human history. In the empires of the ancient world, the gods were invariably on the side of established power. And there were entire classes of people who were deemed unworthy. The poor, the sick, strangers, women. We see this even in the days leading up to the revelation, when God tells Moses to ready the people, and Moses tells the people, meaning the men, to distance themselves from the women, as though he thought somehow the revelation could take place without them. That the God of creation might intervene in history to liberate former slaves, to liberate women, this was a truly radical idea, a truly radical act, an undoing of the metaphysical order and a breaking down and rebuilding of established power structures. The moral significance of this moment cannot be underestimated. God reveals God's self at Sinai, and with the revelation, power is no longer defined by an allegiance to the powerful, but by a concern for the powerless and those who had otherwise been deemed unworthy and who had suffered the degradation of enslavement. Those who had suffered the degradation of enslavement were now among those considered most deserving of divine protection. God aligns God's self with the oppressed, and the possibility of change and of service to change is revealed. And if, according to Reb Mendel, it's the people who stood at Sinai and who saw the thunder, if it's the people that give voice to Torah, we are those people. And if, according to Reb Mendel, it is through human speech and through human action that Torah takes shape and through which God's wisdom is revealed, revelation can come from anywhere, from a person, from a piece of poetry, from a principle of justice, from prayer. Revelation can come from a teacher who's able to discern what it is that an angry kid needs to be taught. Revelation can come from a stranger whose humble act of prayer can penetrate the soul and engender humility. Revelation can come from a great sage whose wordless call to attention can, like thunder down the mountain, or like the blast of the shofar, orient you to the mystery and to the awe and to the urgency of this moment, this one, right now. This past weekend, many of us watched in fear as a gunman violated the sanctity, indeed the sanctuary of Shabbat for the Jews of Colleyville, Texas, and the world over. Together we watched and we worried and we prayed, just as we had when a gunman violated the sanctity of Shabbat in Poway, in Pittsburgh, in Los Angeles. A revelation? Perhaps. An awareness for sure. If nothing else, a call to action. This past weekend, we waited and we held our breath. And now, with a profound sense of gratitude that the captives have been freed, we tend to the trauma, to old wounds and new. And with an unwavering commitment to community, we take care of ourselves and of each other. And now, as we welcome Shabbat once again, we resist. We resist hate. We resist fear. We resist complacency. We resist the belief that anti-Semitism is just a Jewish problem. Anti-Semitism is, of course, a problem for the Jews. But anti-Semitism and anti-Jewish violence are also indicators of a widespread social, cultural, and political failure to address racism, white supremacy, polarization, the erosion of truth, the gutting of democracy, and the proliferation of guns. Make no mistake, anti-Semitism is a Jewish problem. But the shooting up of synagogues and of schools and of supermarkets, this is a uniquely American problem. And it is endemic. And so now we fight. We fight by keeping our doors safely open and by continuing to come together in community. We fight by staying in conversation with ourselves, by knowing what we need, and by working to dismantle internalized bias. We fight by working to build or to strengthen relationships across difference, by cultivating empathy, understanding, and a morality of concern for the most vulnerable among us. We fight by having the courage to live up to our values, by organizing, and by seeking out opportunities for collaboration, for conversation, and for repair. We fight by insisting on and advocating for truth, justice, equity, education, voter protections, and gun laws. We fight the darkness and the despair together in solidarity and with the understanding that though the captives are free, there is still much work to be done. Let this be our Torah. Let us elevate what it means to be called, and let us lift as we climb. May this be a Shabbat of rest, recovery, revelation, and resistance. Shabbat Shalom.
With those powerful words, we move to 371. A prayer for healing. I ask first that healing come to those who sustained trauma last week and their families. Healing to our country and to our world. I ask that prayers go out to Arnie Zappel, Yisrael Aga, David Anderson, Amanda Batista, Susan Bosch, Susan Becker, Jenny Bryant, Tom Burrows, Amelia Byers, Audrey Cohn, Jay Cohn, Joe Cohen, Robert Cohn, Robert Cook, Carol Cooper, Adele Corvin, Tyler Corvin, Louis Costello, Yehuda, Ben Leah Vachayim, Honey Fine, Steve Fine, Phyllis Fillmore, Ellen Futterman, John Gaudier, Bruce Ginsburg, Joy Gross, Ron Hall, Darren Jacobs, Judy Jacobs, Lee Kalish, Les Kalmus, Seth Kerr, Susan Klamberg, Andrea Klein, Mary Jane Klein, Lou Klein, Buddy Krakowski, Jeff Levine, Jack Levy, Jeff Lukash. Malka Levine, Stacy Lynn, Steve Linworth, Lana Ogram, Moshe Yosef, Joe Michaels, Stephanie Payusko, Rick Peruso, Carla Friedman, Ellie Edelwitz, Rivka Bat Esther Ephraim, Tony Rosenstein, Blossom Rosman, Meryl Shapiro, Robin Stone, Elaine Trott, Beverly Ushko, Ellen Vogeloff, George Wells, Ben Wilder, Phyllis Wofield, Jeffrey Zelkovitz, Gretchen Zimmerman. Continued prayers for healing for Sandy Albelli, Todd Albelli, Tommy Anderson, Bonnie Amantro, Jan Bennett, Pat Brackman, Joe Cowley, Michael Corvin, Cheryl Fitzsimmons, Barbara Gallagher, Francine Glasser, Mark Greenberg, Marcia Hamburg, Valerie Henderson, George Jones, Danny Joseph, Anita Cantor, Heather Kiteja, Levy Corley, Charlie Littman, Nomi Laurie, David Mallon, Joan Moore, Ann Murkoff, Catherine Nicholson, Nevaeh Newsy, Orly Batzvia Vachaya, Steve Perlmutter, Antoinette Phelan, Lillian Rich Schuster, Dave Rosenthal, Evie Rosenthal, Kyle Rothgeb, Barbara Salberg, Henry Sanderson, Shirley Schneider, Deborah Sears, Phil Searle, Sloan Shortley, Michelle Simon, Charles Slutsky, Sandy Weiner, Karen Wilder, Luca Williams, the Livingston House staff and residents. For those names that I have called, now if you are holding a name in your heart at this time, when my eyes meet yours, please share those names. Thank you. Thank you.
Michelle Kleber.
For all those who have been mentioned, and for those who are holding in our heart for healing.
Yishaberach Avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. Yishaberach Imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, v'Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Bless us with a vision for tomorrow. Help us to reach out to those in pain. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us faith, show us the way. Mishaberach Avotenu, Mishaberach Imotenu. Hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well.
581. At this time, we remember those who have recently lost their hold on life. As a community, we remember Mark Trott, Zichrono Livracha, of blessed memory, as we stand with Joshua and David Trott, Elaine and Bernie, and Sandy, Mel. We are with David Hirsch as he remembers his brother, Michael Hirsch. So too do I hold in my heart all of those names of loved ones for whom you, members of the congregation, are saying Kaddish during your time of grief, your Shana. It is our tradition to weave the blessings of memory of loved ones who died in this season in years past. Richard Bosch, Eli Bosch's father. Evelyn Emerson, Tom DeLuza's grandmother, Irving Glasser, Francine Glasser's father, Anita Goldberg, Amy Skorka's mother, Harry Helfand, Bob Helfand's father, Charlotte Kaplan Kant, Ann Murkoff's sister, Samuel Kaplan, Elaine Karasik, Russ Karasik's mother, Herbert Kletsky, Eric May, Lori May's father, Christine Moynihan, Michelle Moynihan's sister-in-law, Amelia Ronder, Leon Tepper, Barbara Levy's father, Abraham Vogel, Jeffrey Weiser, John Wilbur, Sharon Zippel's uncle, Zichronam Livracha. May their memories be for a blessing. 581. I used to be part of you, belong to you, the extension of your being. But now you live within me, are the spark of my consciousness. I say Kaddish for you, with you, as you. Sing your melodies, speak your words, hearing your voice in mine, and my eyes, too green, have somehow started to reflect the blue of yours. I used to be part of you, protected by your presence, by your light, but now the time is mine, and alone I must be more than myself. Your child has become your heir, has become you. Kaddish Yatom, Mourners Kaddish. Page 598. It is our tradition to stand with those who are saying Kaddish and grieving, we as a community supporting one another. It is our tradition to see ourselves as responsible for the martyrs of our people who left no one to say Kaddish, and for the people of every race and nation who lived their lives as a blessing to healing, to justice, and humanity. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach le'olam lalmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha barichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol b'nei Adam v'imru, amen. Please be seated. Before we close, slowly but surely, the sanctuary is beginning to fill back up. I want to gently remind everybody how happy it makes me. I want to gently remind everyone how safe it feels to be here with everybody fully masked and very distanced, with our HEPA filters, and with all of us having taken those steps to be fully vaccinated as we are eligible. Please check the website to see our guidelines so that you can be prepared when you come in. We look forward to seeing you soon and regularly. Tomorrow morning, Shabbat Minyan begins at 10 a.m. Immediately following services, Rabbinic intern Jack and I will be going with the confirmation class to do community service. And please remember, while Tu B'Shvat was on Tuesday, we will be observing it together Saturday afternoon, Kimat Motzei Shabbat, almost to the end of Shabbat, outdoors in Rhinebeck. All of the details you can get by going onto the website or back to the email that was sent out to you. Even now, you can still get the information, make a reservation, and and join us. It will be a 1-hour amazing celebration Saturday afternoon in Rhinebeck, and we look forward to sharing this with you. Dress very warm, and the Spirit will warm you even more. I am out of synagogue next week. All of my classes will resume the first week of February. CEHV's Food Access and Security Initiative is an amazing presence in the Kingston community. It is a difficult time for so many of our neighbors. We actually can make a difference to help our neighbors access the food that they need to be secure and for their families. Please be part of this wonderful initiative. You can get all of the details by picking up a bag when you leave the sanctuary today. It's also a gentle reminder to do a drop-off when you are shopping, and by looking on the website. We are encouraging people just to take a selfie when you drop food and let us know, or don't take a selfie, but just shoot an email to Jess and let her know and let our committee know how your experience has been. I know that these live stream services are meaningful to members of our community who are not ready to be here in person, members of our community who live at a distance, and friends of CEHV who are joining us regularly or once in a while. As you enjoy the services, please translate it with a donation to our congregation that helps us to do the sacred work that we are doing. Membership and Welcoming Committee invite you to join them in greeting our in-person community on Friday evenings and Saturday mornings. If you can be a greeter, please contact the main office and help us to keep the doors widely open safely so that all of us can be safe. I probably didn't say that as well as I should have. Help us to keep the spirit of our congregation open as we welcome guests into our community. We close today with Tfilat HaDerech, a prayer for the journey. Take a moment and just swivel in your seat and greet somebody who you didn't have a chance to greet yet. We are not gathering inside the building following services until after Omicron, but you certainly can gather this way with a warm virtual hug and a smile through your eyes. Tfilat HaDerech. Six, 4, 9.
May we be blessed as we go on our way. May we be guided in peace. May we be blessed with health and joy. May this be our blessing. Amen. Amen. by the wings of peace. May we be kept in safety and in love. May grace and compassion find their way to every soul. May this be our blessing. Amen. Amen. May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. May this be our blessing. Amen.
So let me try this one more time. I'm going to change my name to Rabbi Joe Biden. I'm going to spend a week trying to back up the last thing that I said. As you know, I imagine in my heart, my rabbi heart, that every synagogue leaves their doors wide open because that's what we want to be, a welcoming synagogue. But let me assure you that it has been for many years now, it's not new, that our doors are locked, and that's why your being a greeter is so important, so that as soon as our guests come, we can make them feel welcome and one another and welcome one another in. Our doors are, sadly, locked, but our hearts are very open. Please volunteer to be a greeter with the others that are already doing that. A warm thank you to Bob, who accompanied Alexandra and all of us and lifted our spirits. A warm thank you to Amy, who was greeting this evening. A warm, warm, warm gratitude and thank you to our Barry, who makes all of this possible. Shabbat Shalom.